Hello, grade 6. This is our second online lecture for semester 4. And in this video, I'm going to explain a new chapter, a new interesting one, which is statistics. What all the world suffer right now is from Corona. And you hear a lot of the words, 79% of the cases have recovered, 21% have died, or 5% have critical cases. So all of these terms are used in statistics. So they do a statistic on a certain country or in the whole world, and they come up with a result. In this chapter, we are going to talk a little bit about these cases and how do we calculate, for example, the percentage of a total number of people, or if we have the percentage, how can we know how many person? So that statistic, actually, it's a mathematical theory of where we aim to organize statements in a big number to be able to interpret them, and we calculate the average or resume in one number of grades. For example, we are going to calculate a percentage of a certain group, and actually the statistics are used mostly in markets, in finance, in medicine, in human sciences, for example, like Corona. So that's how we use the statistics. So we are going to take a lot of examples in this lecture, okay? Before we start our study, let us remember together the percentages and how do they represent, or what do they represent. This was our first online lecture, so let us remember together. When I say, for example, 50%, what does that mean? When I say 50%, I mean half the amount. So if you look at the following diagrams, this represents half the amount. So half is colored, half is uncolored. So 50% represents half the quantity. When I say 75%, I mean 75% of the box is colored, or in another word, 3/4. If you memorize them, you can know that 75% represents 3/4. So it's this diagram. 100% means the whole amount or the whole figure, so it's this diagram. So 100% is the whole thing. So for example, 100% could be 100 student, could be 400 patient, could be 300 store. Okay, so 100% they represent the whole amount of a thing. 25% means 1/4, so it represents this diagram. Let us start by the first exercise. The students of grade 6 got the following grades for a homework. So suppose that there is a homework and it's graded, and the grades are over 20. So most of them, they took 13, 12, 15, 17. So we made a study for all the students in this class, and we gathered the grades as you see in the first box. So let us try to organize them in this pictogram. When I say pictogram, it's actually picked in. For example, all the grades are gathered together, okay? So if you look at the grades, the range is 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, nothing else. So we need to count how many 12 are there, okay? So first of all, I'm going to count from the first table how many students took 12 out of 20. So 12 is only 2. So only 2 students got 12 over 20. How many of the students took 13? So I count them, and it's 4. So 4 students got 13 over 20. What about the 14? So if you count them, those are the 14, and they are 6 students out of, they got 14 out of 20. And how many students got 15 Those are the 15, and 8 students got 15 over 20. How many students got 17? Only 3. And how many got 18? Only 1 student got 18. And now the question is, what's the total frequency of this series? Or in another word, what's the number of students of this class? In order to know, I need to add all these numbers, because it's impossible to find a student that got 2 grades at the same time. Okay, so we count the student numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, and 1, so it's 24. So we knew now that the number of students in this class is 24 students. Okay, so we say that this is the frequency of the series. Now we are going to talk about the circular diagram of percentages. This is a survey, is represented in a way in a disk, as a disk, and you know that the disk it measures 360 degrees. Okay? We need to explain the link between the percentage and the angles. How can I, if for example I have the percentages of the students, for example, who failed, who got an average grade, and who passed, suppose we are talking about grades, and I need to represent them in a disk or in a circular diagram. How can I move from a percentage into a degree? Of course, there's a link, and the link actually it's based on the proportional or a proportional coefficient that we already learned in the previous video. So most of the things that you are going to calculate now are based on the first lecture we took last week. Okay, let us try to make them in a table. The percentages are 100, 50, 25, 10%, 75%, 5%, and 20%, for example. And the angle in degree. So, if you have 100%, then definitely you are going to circle the whole disk. That means 100%, it represents 360 degrees. But if you colored 50%, 50% means half the disk. And the semi-disk, we already learned it before, it's 180 degrees. So there's a link. We are going to try to find the coefficient or the proportional coefficient of this table. I taught you how to do this. We put 360 over 100 and we will get 3.6 or 36. So starting from now on, to move from a percentage to an angle, you need to multiply by 3.6. If you are asking me, or if you are trying to know, how did I find the 3.6? It's very easy. You put 360 over 100, so you flip them. 360 over 100 divided by 100, it's 3.6. So, and now from 100 to 360, it's times 3.6. So, 100 times 3.6 is 360. 50 also times 3.6 is 180. And now to find 25, you multiply it by 3.6, it's 90. 10% is 36 degrees. 75% is 270 degrees. 5% is 18 degrees. And 20% is 72 degrees. So the proportionality coefficient is 3.6. So keep in mind, guys, if you have a percentage and you need to represent it in a circle, you multiply by 3.6 and you will get the degree. Let us make a quick application on this. Using the same method, represent the following table to show a survey about motorcyclists and the usage of a helmet. So we asked certain motorcyclists, we asked them if they use the helmet or if it's important to use a helmet. 85% they are with wearing a helmet. So 85% of the people we asked, they said that you have to use a helmet. 5% only are against, and 10% they didn't answer. So these percentages, I need to represent them on a circle diagram. So as I told you, if you had the percentage and you want to change it into degree, you have to multiply by 3.6. So 85 times 3.6 is 306 degrees. So in order to draw this 306 degree, first you have to put, let us say that also 5 times 3.6 is 18 and 10 times 3.6 is 36. So first you draw the radius, you put the 306 degree. It's actually 180, then 90, then 306. Okay, so it's very easy to locate it. It's 306. So the whole angle here is 306, and this represents those that are with wearing a helmet. Then I'm going to plot or to draw the 18 degrees, which is as you see like this. You use the protractor anyway, and this here represent those that are against, which is 5%, and those are no answer, that are 10%. Which is, excuse me, it's as you see. So the keyword in order to convert from a percentage into a degree, to multiply by 3.6. Okay. Observe the circuit diagram below that represents the monthly expenses of a family. So a family, it has an expense, monthly expense, which is they have an income 2,150,000. Of course, they make food, they have leisures, clothing, lodging, and the rest of the money are for the savings. Okay, so in this exercise we are trying to find exactly what's the amount of money they spend in food, in lodging, leisure, and clothing as money, and not as a percentage. Okay, so I already had the percentage and I'm trying to find the exact money they pay. Okay, so in order to know this, just keep in mind that 30% of 2,150,000 and 25% of the income, which is 2,150,000. Okay, so first of all we are going to know the lodging. The lodging, it's actually 25%. So in another word, I'm trying to find 25% of 2,150,000, which is, as you see, we calculated it, and it's 537,500. Okay, so this is the lodging. What about the food? The food actually is 30%. So 30% of 2,150,000 is 645,000. So the food is 645,000. Also the same thing for the clothing, and the same thing for the leisure, as you see. And that's how we calculate if we have the percentage of something. And this is, you already know. Okay, this is something you already know, because we learned it in the first lecture. How do we find the percentage of something? And here we are trying to calculate the percentage of the expenses. Okay. So what you have to learn now, that if we have a circular diagram, the percentages in the sectors help us to find the frequency. Why? Because the proportionality coefficient is equal to the total number of frequency over 100. Because you know that I told you 100% it represents the whole number of students, or the whole frequency. Okay, so the proportionality coefficient is equal to the total frequency over 100. As a direct exercise, let us solve this application. The adjacent circular diagram represents the favorite sports activity of 40 students of grade 6. 30% they do tennis, 60% basketball, and 10% volleyball. Okay, I need to complete this table where I need to, from the percentages, I need to find the frequency. So again, as I told you, first of all, the first thing you have to do is to find the proportionality coefficient. And I told you that the proportionality coefficient is equal to the total number of frequency over 100. The total number of frequency in this case are the 40 students of grade 6. So the 40 students is the total frequency over 100. So 40 over 100 is equal to 2 over 5. So the proportionality coefficient is 2 over 5. So every time you have the percentage and you need to find the frequency, you need to multiply it by 2 over 5. Okay? So basketball is 60%. And 60 times 2 over 5. How do you do this? It's very easy. 60 times 2 over 5. You put a big line of fraction and you try to simplify. And after you are done, the number is 24. The same thing for the volleyball. The volleyball is 10% of the 40 students. So it's 10% times 2 over 5, which is 4. And the tennis is 30%. And 30% of 2 over 5 is 12. So as you see, those are the frequencies we calculate them. If you want to check that your answer is correct, you have to add all the frequencies. It should be the same as the total number of students. So 24 plus 4 is 28, and 28 plus 12 is 40. So the total number of frequency is correct. So again, the first thing you have to do is to find the proportionality coefficient and then multiply the percentage by the proportionality coefficient to find the frequency. Given the circular diagram that represents the percentages of colors preferred by the students of a school. So we asked the students what are the colors that they love, and they said 25% they said that their lovely color is 25%. 20% said the pink, 15% said the purple, 30% that said the gray, and I don't know the percentage of the black color. Okay, so this is the diagram. So we are asked to find the percentage of students who prefer the black color. Well, you know that the whole circle represents 100%, which is the total number of students. If 25% says white, 20% says pink, 15% says purple, and 30% says gray, then the left percentage is for the black. The left means I need to subtract. So 100 minus 30 minus 15 minus 20 and minus 25 is equal to 10%. So those who love black is 10%. Okay, so if the number of students is 400, find the number of students who prefer the white color. So now they gave us that the number of students is 400. So I just draw a small table and I say that 100%, the 100%, they represent 400 students. Then 25%, which prefer the white. How many students are there? Are they? Or how much do they represent? You can do this. I already taught you how to do this in the first lecture, and I told you that you need to multiply those that are opposite to each other divided by the number standing alone. So you have to do 25 times 400 over 100, which is 100 students. You can solve this in another word. You ask yourself 25%, which represents the white, of 400. So 25% of 400, and you do 25%, which is 25 over 100 times 400, and you are going to come to the same equation, which is this one. Okay? And here we go to the last exercise that you can say that it gathers all the information that we have learned in this video. The opposite circular diagram shows the repartition of 1,800 students according to their studies. So I have 1,800 students. 10% of them are technical. 40% they are in the secondary one. 15% are in the high school, and the rest are in the secondary too. So the first question, what's the percentage of students in the secondary 2 class? So I need to calculate the rest part of the percentage. How do I do this? As we learned, it's 100 minus 40 minus 15 minus 10, which is 35%. So again, we have 1,800 students. They are partitioned in technical, secondary 1, high school, and secondary 2. And now I have the percentage of every one. So I have the percentage of everyone, and we are asked now in number 2 to calculate the number of students of secondary 1, secondary 2, high school, and technical. In this exercise, you can solve it in two different ways. The first way is to calculate, for example, secondary 1, 40% of 1,800, 15% of 1,800. And you calculate as we learned, you change the of into times and you put a big line of fraction and you can find the number of students. This is the easiest way. Or in another word, you can calculate first of all the coefficient, which is the total number of students over 100, which is 18. Because this is easier. Why? Because after finding the coefficient, you only multiply the percentage by the coefficient and you get the numbers. So instead of multiplying 40% by 1,800 divided by 100 and you simplify a big line of fraction, instead of doing all of this, you just calculate the coefficient, which is 18. And now every percentage, I'm going to multiply it by 18 to get the number of students. So in secondary 1, it's 40%. So 40 times 18 is 720. So 720 students are in secondary 1. Also, to find the number of students in secondary 2, we multiply its percentage, which is 35, we calculated it, times 18, which is 630. And then the high school, which is 15. 15 times 18 is 270. And the technical, which is 10% times 18, is 180. To check that your answers are correct, you should add the number of students in every category. It should be 1,800 after you add them. So the sum should be as much as you have in the total number of students. So as I told you, just a quick revision. To answer this question, you can do two things. Either you do, for example, 10% of 1,800 and you solve it, or you find the coefficient and then multiply every percentage by the coefficient. So to find the frequency, you multiply the percentage by the coefficient. And to find the angle, you multiply the percentage by the 3.6. Which is in number 3, they asked you to calculate the angle of the sector that represent the percentage in the high school. So the high school is 15%. So 15 times 3.6 equals 54 degrees. Okay, so just to finalize everything. We learned how to find the percentage of something. Then we learned if I have the percentage, how can I find the number of students, or to find the total number of students. And if I have the percentage, how can I find the angle, or if I have the angle, how can I find the percentage. It's all about proportionality. I wish that you got everything. I advise you to watch the video more than one time, and after you are done, you have to solve the supplementary worksheet I've uploaded for you on the drive, and it's a direct application for what I've explained. And if you have any question, don't forget that we have our live session, and then we have an online quiz. Okay, so good luck everyone.